Left to Die in the Void. Part 1. The Betrayal Captain. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope, watching the ancient alien ruins grow larger on the main screen. After 3 months of traveling through space with their alien partners, they had finally reached their destination. The massive stone structures floated in the darkness, older than human civilization itself. "Captain, we're getting readings I've never seen before," said Lieutenant Kate Sullivan from her navigation station. Her fingers danced across the controls as she studied the data. "These ruins are giving off some kind of energy signature." Jake nodded and turned to the tall, blue-skinned alien standing beside him. Ambassador Thex 9 of the Zephyrian Collective had been humanity's guide to the galaxy for 10 years. His people had introduced Earth to faster-than-light travel and shown them that they were not alone in the universe. "Your sensors are quite good for such young technology," Thex 9 said in his smooth voice. "Yes, these ruins hold great secrets. This is why we brought you here. Your species shows promise, and we believe you are ready to learn more about the galaxy." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his science station, excitement clear in his voice. "Captain, I'm detecting technology that's at least 50,000 years old. Whatever civilization built this was incredibly advanced." Commander Ryan Blake, the ship's security chief, stood near the weapons console. Something felt wrong to him, but he couldn't say what. His instincts had kept him alive through many dangerous missions. "Sir, shouldn't we be more careful? We don't know what's down there." Jake understood Ryan's concern, but this mission was too important. Earth needed to prove itself worthy of joining the galactic community. The Zephyrians had been patient teachers, but Jake knew they were still testing humanity. "We'll be careful, Ryan. But this is our chance to show we belong out here among the stars." The 3 human ships, Defiant Hope, New Dawn, and Perseverance, moved closer to the ruins alongside the larger Zephyrian vessels. Each human ship carried a crew of 200, Earth's best and brightest. This mission would determine humanity's future in space. Engineer Lisa Park called from the engine room over the communications system. "Captain, I'm seeing some strange readings from the alien ruins. The energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. Keep monitoring, Lisa. Let me know if anything changes." As they approached the ruins, Jake felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was what humanity had dreamed of for centuries, exploring ancient alien civilizations and unlocking the secrets of the universe. The Zephyrians had promised that this mission would secure Earth's place among the galactic powers. The exploration team spent hours studying the ruins. What they found was beyond their wildest dreams. The ancient civilization had developed technology that could revolutionize space travel. Their faster-than-light drives were more efficient than anything the current galactic powers possessed. With this technology, humanity could explore the farthest reaches of space. Dr. Carter was practically bouncing with excitement as he reported his findings. "Captain, this changes everything. With these designs, we could build ships that travel 10 times faster than current technology allows. We could reach other galaxies." Jake felt pride swell in his chest. Humanity had found something that would make them equals to the advanced alien races. No longer would they be the junior partners dependent on others for technology and guidance. But as the human teams continued their work, Jake noticed that Ambassador Thex 9 and his people had become very quiet. The Zephyrian ships had moved into new positions around the human vessels, though Jake initially thought nothing of it. It was Lisa Park who first realized something was wrong. "Captain, the Zephyrians are targeting us with some kind of energy beam. It's disrupting our systems." Before Jake could respond, the lights on the bridge flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in red light. All around the ship, systems began shutting down one by one. "What's happening?" Kate called out as her navigation controls went dark. Ryan was already at his station, trying to bring weapons online. "Sir, they're jamming our communications and disabling our engines." "This is an attack." Jake's blood ran cold as the truth hit him. The Zephyrians had not brought them here as partners. This had been a trap from the beginning. Ambassador Thex 9's voice came through the emergency communications channel, calm and cold. "Captain Morrison, please do not be alarmed. We are simply securing the ancient technology for the good of galactic stability." "What are you doing?" Jake demanded. "We're supposed to be allies." "Allies?" Thex 9's laugh was like ice. "Your species was useful for a time. You have good instincts for exploration and discovery. but we never intended for you to become our equals." On the main screen, Jake watched as Zephyrian teams moved through the ruins, taking all the technology the humans had discovered. Everything humanity had dreamed of was being stolen right before their eyes. "The galaxy has an order, Captain Morrison. The established powers maintain peace and stability. We cannot allow a young, aggressive species like humanity to upset that balance." Dr. Carter stared in horror at his readings. "They're taking everything. All the data, all the technology samples. Years of research gone." Ryan tried desperately to get their weapons online, but the Zephyrian attack had been too thorough. "Sir, all our primary systems are down. We're completely helpless." Jake felt rage building inside him, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Ambassador, our people trusted you. Earth trusted you, and that trust served us well," Thex-9 replied. "You led us to discoveries we might have missed, but now your usefulness has ended." The Zephyrian ships began to move away, leaving the 3 human vessels drifting powerless in space. Jake realized with growing horror that they weren't just taking the technology. They were abandoning the human crews to die. "Your species showed promise." Thex-9's final transmission came through clearly, "but the galaxy has no place for another apex predator. Consider this natural selection at work. Goodbye, Captain Morrison." The communication channel went dead, leaving only silence and the soft hum of failing life support systems. Jake looked around his bridge at his crew, Kate, Alex, Ryan, and the others who had trusted him to lead them safely through this mission. They were all looking to him for answers he didn't have. Lisa's voice came from engineering, tight with fear but still professional. "Captain, with primary power down, we have maybe 72 hours of life support left. The other ships are reporting similar status." Jake stared out at the vast emptiness of space surrounding them. 3 human ships, 600 people, left to die in the void because they had dared to dream of something better. But as he looked at his crew, Jake saw something that the Zephyrians had missed. In their eyes was not despair but determination. Humanity had faced impossible odds before and survived. They would find a way through this too. "Not today," Jake said quietly, his voice growing stronger. "Humanity doesn't give up that easily." Left to die in the void, Part 2, The Reckoning. The red emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the bridge as Jake Morrison gathered his senior staff. Around them, the Defiant Hope drifted silently through space, its main engines cold and dead. The other 2 human ships, New Dawn and Perseverance, floated nearby in the same helpless condition. "Give me our status," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. Lisa Park's report was grim. "Captain, the Zephyrians hit us with some kind of electromagnetic pulse. It fried most of our primary systems. Main engines are down, navigation is offline, and life support is running on backup power only." Kate Sullivan looked up from her dark navigation console. "Sir, I've managed to get short-range communications working with the other ships. Captain Brown on the New Dawn and Captain Hayes on the Perseverance are reporting the same problems." Dr. Carter shook his head in disbelief. "They planned this perfectly. They knew exactly which systems to target to leave us helpless but alive long enough to watch our supplies run out." Ryan Blake had been checking the ship's defensive systems. "All weapons are down, but that's not our biggest problem right now. Without main power, we're losing heat fast. In this deep space environment, we'll freeze long before we run out of air." Jake felt the weight of 600 lives pressing down on his shoulders. The Zephyrians had played them perfectly, using humanity's own curiosity and trust against them. But as he looked at his crew, he saw something that gave him hope. They weren't giving up. "Lisa, what do we have that's still working?" The chief engineer consulted her portable tablet, one of the few electronic devices still functioning. "Emergency power is stable for now. The backup life support systems are running, but they won't last long. We still have basic gravity from the mechanical systems, and some of the smaller equipment that wasn't connected to main power is still operational." Dr. Carter suddenly looked thoughtful. "Captain, I've been thinking about what the Zephyrians took and what they left behind. They grabbed all the major technology and data cores, but they ignored what they probably considered our primitive equipment." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "They took our main computers and advanced sensors, but they left behind things like our personal devices, medical equipment, even the coffee makers and exercise machines. To them, these were probably just junk." Kate's eyes lit up with understanding. "But we can use those things. Humans have always been good at making something out of nothing." Lisa was already nodding, her engineer's mind working through the possibilities. "The captain's right. My tablet here has more computing power than the first spacecraft that took humans to the moon. If we can link together enough small devices, we might be able to create a basic control system. Ryan stood up from his station. What about parts? We need more than just computers. That's where we get creative, Lisa said with a small smile. This ship is full of components we can use. The exercise bikes in the gym have motors and electrical systems. The medical bay has precision tools and power supplies. Even the food processors have circuits we can salvage. Jake felt the first spark of hope since the attack. What's our first priority? Communication and coordination, Kate said immediately. We need to link up with the other ships and pool our resources. 3 crews working together have a better chance than 3 crews working alone. Dr. Carter was already thinking ahead, and we need to explore those ruins more thoroughly. The Zephyrians were in a hurry when they left. They might have missed something we can use. Over the next several hours, the 3 ships became hives of activity. Crew members worked in teams, carefully removing components from everyday equipment and devices. The gymnasium was stripped of exercise machines. The medical bay donated precision instruments and power cells. Even personal items like music players and gaming devices were sacrificed to the cause. Lisa Park coordinated the engineering efforts across all 3 ships through a network of portable radios and tablets. People, we're building something that's never been built before. A spacecraft control system made entirely from spare parts and consumer electronics. The work was slow and dangerous. With main power down, the ships were getting colder by the hour. Crew members worked in thick coats and gloves, their breath visible in the chilly air. But nobody complained. Everyone understood that this was their only chance for survival. Dr. Carter made the first major breakthrough when he returned from a survey mission to the ruins. Captain, the Zephyrians missed something important. These ruins aren't just a storage facility, they're a testing ground. What kind of testing ground? Jake asked. I found remains from at least 6 different alien civilizations. All of them were brought here and abandoned just like us. But here's the interesting part. Some of them survived for a while, long enough to leave behind their own equipment and technology. Kate looked up from where she was connecting tablet computers with cables salvaged from kitchen appliances. You mean we're not the first ones to be left here to die? Exactly. And the previous victims left behind some useful things. I found power cells that are still partially charged, tools that are designed for ship repair, even some basic weapons. Ryan's interest was immediately caught. Weapons? What kind? Nothing fancy, but they work. It looks like one of the previous civilizations managed to build some defensive systems before they ran out of time. Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead despite the cold air. Captain, I think we can do this. It's going to be ugly and unreliable, but I believe we can cobble together enough systems to get basic propulsion and life support working. How long do you need? Jake asked. Give me another 12 hours and I'll have something that might keep us alive. Give me 24 hours and I might be able to get us moving. Jake looked around at his crew and felt pride swell in his chest. Humanity had always been at its best when facing impossible odds. They were proving that right now. Captain, Kate said quietly, what are we going to do if we get the ships working? We're still stranded in deep space, thousands of light years from Earth. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. The Zephyrians had expected them to die quietly in the darkness, another failed species that couldn't handle the realities of the galaxy. But they had underestimated human stubbornness. We have 2 choices, Jake said finally. We can try to limp home and warn Earth about what the Zephyrians really are, or we can make them pay for what they've done. Ryan smiled grimly. I vote for making them pay. Dr. Carter nodded. They left us here to die because they were afraid of what we might become. Maybe it's time to show them they were right to be afraid. Jake looked out at the ruins floating in space around them. 6 civilizations had been brought here and abandoned. All of them had probably died in despair, wondering why the galaxy was so cruel. But humanity was different. They didn't give up when things got tough. They got creative, they got stubborn, and they got even. Then let's get to work, Jake said. We have a message to send to the Zephyrians, and that message is going to be delivered in person. As the crews worked through the night, the 3 ships slowly began to show signs of life. Emergency lights flickered on in new sections. The sound of improvised machinery hummed through the corridors. And in the depths of space, humanity prepared to prove that they were much harder to kill than anyone had imagined. Left to Die in the Void, Part 3, The Resurrection. 3 days after the Zephyrian betrayal, Jake Morrison stood in what used to be the main cargo bay of the Defiant Hope. Now it looked like the workshop of a mad inventor. Cables ran everywhere, connecting devices that were never meant to work together. The smell of welding metal and electrical components filled the air. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa Park called from across the improvised engineering space. She was covered in grease and had been working for 18 hours straight, but her eyes were bright with excitement. Jake made his way through the maze of equipment to where Lisa stood beside a strange-looking machine. It was built from parts of the ship's main computer: 3 exercise bikes, 2 coffee makers, and what looked like pieces from the medical bay's surgery robot. "What am I looking at, Lisa?" "A miracle," she said with a tired smile. "Or the closest thing to one we're going to get. This is our new propulsion control system. It's not pretty, but it works." Kate Sullivan came over from where she had been connecting more tablets into their makeshift navigation network. "The other ships report similar progress. Captain Brown says his team has managed to get basic life support running at 70% efficiency. Captain Hayes reports that they've restored partial power to their communications array." Dr. Carter looked up from a collection of alien artifacts he had brought back from the ruins. "I've been studying the technology left behind by the previous civilizations. Most of it is too damaged to use, but I found something interesting." He held up a crystalline device about the size of a human fist. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This is some kind of power cell from a species that was abandoned here about 2,000 years ago. According to my scans, it still has enough energy to power our improvised systems for weeks." Ryan Blake walked over from the weapons station they had built using parts from the ship's exercise equipment and some components from the ruins. "Sir, I've got good news and bad news about our defensive capabilities." "Give me the bad news first," Jake said. "We don't have anything that would be effective against a full Zephyrian battlecruiser. Our improvised weapons are basically toys compared to their technology." "And the good news?" Ryan grinned. "We don't need to fight their ships. We just need to be unpredictable enough to avoid them, and fast enough to cause some damage before they know what hit them." Lisa wiped her hands on a rag and gestured to the chaos around them. "Captain, I need to be honest with you. What we've built here shouldn't work. We're using kitchen appliances to control a faster-than-light drive system. We're navigating with tablet computers and powering everything with alien batteries we don't understand." "But it does work?" Jake asked. "So far, yes, but I can't promise how long it will hold together. This whole system is held together with spare wire, hope, and stubbornness." Kate laughed despite their situation. "Sounds like humanity in general." Dr. Carter had been quiet while studying readings from his improvised science station. "Captain, I've made another discovery about the ruins. The civilizations that were brought here weren't just abandoned randomly. There's a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" Jake asked. "Each species that was brought here had developed something that threatened the established galactic order. Faster-than-light communication, advanced weapons, revolutionary energy sources. The galactic powers have been eliminating potential competitors for thousands of years." Ryan's expression darkened. "So this is standard practice for them. Find a promising species, use them to make discoveries, then get rid of them before they become a threat." "Exactly. But here's what's interesting. Some of these species came close to escaping. I found evidence that one group actually managed to build a working spacecraft from ruins and scrap. They made it off this planet before their life support failed." Jake felt a spark of inspiration. "If they could do it with primitive technology, we can do it with what we have." Lisa nodded firmly. "Captain, I've been thinking about our options. We have 3 damaged ships and a bunch of improvised systems. Separately, none of them could make it back to Earth. But if we combine all 3 ships into one larger vessel, we might have enough power and resources to not just survive, but fight back." "You're talking about completely rebuilding our ships?" Kate asked. "More than that. I'm talking about creating something new, something the galaxy has never seen before." Lisa's voice was filled with determination. "We connect the 3 ships with the structural materials we've salvaged from the ruins. We use all our power sources together. We combine all our improvised systems into one integrated whole." Dr. Carter looked excited. "A single ship with 3 times the resources and redundant systems. Even if part of it fails, the rest could keep going." Ryan was already thinking tactically. "And it would be completely unpredictable. The Zephyrians have databases on human ship designs, but they've never seen anything like what we're proposing." Jake looked around at his senior staff. They were exhausted, working with inadequate tools in freezing cold conditions. By all rights, they should have given up days ago. Instead, they were planning to build something that had never existed before. How long would this take? He asked. If all 3 crews worked together, maybe a week to get the basic connections done. Another week to integrate all the systems and make sure everything works together. That's if everything goes perfectly, Kate pointed out. We could run into problems that add days or weeks to the timeline. Jake made his decision. Do it, send word to the other captains. We're not just trying to survive anymore. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. The next week was a blur of constant activity. Crew members worked in shifts around the clock, using cutting tools and welding equipment to reshape their 3 ships into something entirely new. The Defiant Hope, New Dawn, and Perseverance were slowly transformed into a single, strange-looking vessel. The new ship didn't look like anything in the databases of known civilizations. Parts of it were sleek and modern, built with Earth's best technology. Other sections were clearly alien, incorporating materials and designs from the ruins. Still other areas looked like they had been assembled in someone's garage, which wasn't far from the truth. It's not pretty, Lisa admitted as she showed Jake through the completed vessel. But it's functional. We've got redundant life support, multiple power sources, and a propulsion system that's actually more efficient than what we started with. Dr. Carter had integrated alien technology throughout the ship, creating capabilities that no human vessel had ever possessed. We can detect ships at much greater distances than before. We can also interfere with some types of alien communication systems. Ryan had positioned weapons and defensive systems throughout the combined vessel. Sir, we're not going to win any straight-up fights, but we can hit fast and disappear before they know what happened. Kate had solved the navigation problem by creating a new type of control system that combined human intuition with alien precision. Captain, we can go places and do things that no ship has ever done before. As Jake stood on the bridge of their new creation, looking out at the stars, he felt something he hadn't experienced since the Zephyrian betrayal. Hope. They had christened their new ship the Phoenix Rising, because they had literally risen from the ashes of their destroyed dreams. But they weren't the same people who had been left to die in the void. They were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Captain, Lisa said from her engineering station, all systems are online and functioning. We're ready to leave whenever you give the word. Jake looked at the ruins floating around them, monuments to 6 civilizations that had been abandoned and forgotten. But humanity would not be the 7th. Take us out. Kate. It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity doesn't stay down when you knock us over. The Phoenix Rising began to move, its improvised engines coming to life with a sound unlike any spacecraft before it. They were no longer the helpless victims the Zephyrians had left behind. They were something new and dangerous, and they were very, very angry. Left to die in the void. Part 4. The hunt. 2 weeks after leaving the ruins, the Phoenix Rising moved silently through the outer edges of the Kepler system. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of their strange vessel, watching the tactical display that Dr. Carter had built from alien sensors and human computers. 3 red dots showed the location of Zephyrian supply ships, unaware that they were being hunted. Captain, we're picking up their communications, Kate Sullivan reported from her improvised navigation and communication station. They're discussing humanity's failed mission. According to their reports, all human ships were lost with no survivors. Ryan Blake smiled grimly from his weapons console. Good. Let them think we're all dead. It makes this much easier. Over the past 2 weeks, the Phoenix Rising had been tracking Zephyrian movements throughout this sector of space. They had discovered that Ambassador Thex 9 was traveling to the galactic capital, carrying the stolen human technology to present to the Galactic Council. Along the way, his fleet was being supported by regular supply runs from ships like the ones they were watching now. Lisa, how are our systems holding up? Jake asked. The chief engineer looked up from her station, which was built into what used to be the ship's cafeteria. Better than expected, Captain. The alien power cells we found are incredibly efficient. We're actually using less energy than I calculated, and the hybrid engines are performing beyond my wildest dreams. Dr. Carter had spent the past week studying every piece of alien technology they had found. Captain, I've been analyzing the communications we've intercepted. The Zephyrians have been doing this for centuries. They identify promising species, guide their development until they make useful discoveries, then eliminate them before they become competitors. How many species? Jake asked. At least 47 that I can identify from their records. Entire civilizations gone because they dared to innovate. Alex's voice was filled with anger. They've turned scientific progress into a trap. Ryan had been studying the tactical situation. Sir, these supply ships are lightly armed. They're not expecting trouble. If we hit them fast and take what we need, we can be gone before they can call for help. Jake nodded. The Phoenix Rising needed supplies, and more importantly, they needed information about Zephyrian fleet movements. These supply ships would have current navigation data and communication codes. Kate, take us in. Use the alien stealth systems Alex installed. Yes, sir. Engaging cloak. The Phoenix Rising seemed to shimmer and disappear from normal sensors as Dr. Carter's reverse-engineered cloaking system activated. It wasn't perfect, but it would hide them long enough to get close. As they approached the first supply ship, Jake marveled at what they had accomplished. 3 weeks ago, they were helpless victims left to die in space. Now they were hunting the hunters using technology that the Zephyrians themselves didn't fully understand. Ryan, are your teams ready? Boarding parties are standing by, Captain. We've practiced this a dozen times. Jake had decided early that they wouldn't kill unnecessarily. Their goal was to gather intelligence and supplies, not to become the monsters that the Zephyrians claimed humanity to be. But they would defend themselves if necessary. Execute. The Phoenix Rising dropped its cloak directly beside the Zephyrian supply ship. Before the aliens could react, Ryan's teams had used modified mining tools to cut through the hull and board the vessel. The whole operation took less than 10 minutes. Captain, we've secured the ship, Ryan reported over the communication system. Crew is contained and we're downloading their navigation database now. Dr. Carter was already analyzing the information. This is incredible. They have detailed maps of every major trade route in this part of the galaxy. And Jake, look at this. They have the location of the Galactic Council meeting where Thex-9 is presenting our stolen technology. Kate studied the star charts. It's 2 weeks away at maximum speed. But Captain, it's heavily defended. There are at least 50 warships providing security. We're not going to attack the meeting directly, Jake said, but we are going to be there. The Phoenix Rising repeated this process with 2 more supply ships over the next few days. Each raid provided more information and supplies. More importantly, they began to attract attention. Not from the Zephyrians, who still believed all humans were dead, but from other species. Dr. Carter made a startling discovery when analyzing communications they had intercepted. Captain, we're not the only ones fighting back. There are at least 3 other species that have broken free from galactic control in the past year. And they're all sharing information about human activities. What do you mean? Jake asked. They're calling us the Returners, the species that was supposed to be dead but came back. Word is spreading through underground networks that humanity refused to die and is now hunting Zephyrian ships. Ryan looked up from a weapon system he was modifying with alien components. Sir, I've been getting reports from our boarding teams. Some of the alien crew members we've captured are asking to join us. They say their own species were treated the same way, just not eliminated completely. They want to help us fight the Zephyrians?
Kate asked. More than that.
They want to learn how we survived, how we built a ship from scraps and turned ourselves from victims into hunters. Jake realized that they had started something much bigger than a simple revenge mission. Humanity's refusal to die quietly was inspiring other oppressed species throughout the galaxy. Alex, what do we know about the other species that have broken free? The Korthak were strip-mined for their rare metals, then abandoned when their world was exhausted. The Veil 7 Collective had their best scientists kidnapped and their research stolen. The Hegemony crushed the Altran Rebellion by destroying their 3 largest cities from orbit. And now they're all fighting back? In different ways, yes. But Captain, none of them have been as dramatic as us. We're the first to actually hunt and attack Galactic Council ships. That's why we're getting so much attention. Over the following days, the Phoenix Rising became a symbol throughout the underground networks of oppressed species. Stories spread about the dead humans who had come back to life, using impossible technology to strike at their former oppressors. But Jake knew they needed to do more than just hit supply ships. They needed to make a statement that the entire galaxy would hear. Kate, set course for the Galactic Council meeting. It's time we crashed Ambassador Thex-9's presentation. Sir, there will be representatives from dozens of species there, including many that have never heard of humanity, Dr. Carter pointed out. Good. Then they'll all get to hear our side of the story. Ryan checked his weapon systems one more time. Captain will be outnumbered at least 50-1. Even with all our modifications and alien technology, we won't last long in a straight fight. Jake smiled as he looked at his crew. These amazing people who had refused to give up, even when the entire galaxy had written them off as dead. Ryan, when has humanity ever fought fair? We're not going there to win a battle. We're going there to win a war. Lisa called up from engineering. Captain, all systems are ready. The Phoenix Rising is as prepared as she'll ever be. Then let's go remind the galaxy that when you try to kill humanity, you better make sure we stay dead. As their impossible ship jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward the most important meeting in galactic history, Jake felt a fierce pride in what they had accomplished. The Zephyrians had tried to eliminate them because they were afraid of what humanity might become. They were about to find out they hadn't been afraid enough. Left to die in the void. Part 5. The Defiance. The Galactic Council station hung in space like a massive crystal, its surface reflecting the light of 3 nearby stars. Ships from dozens of civilizations surrounded it, their crews aboard to witness what Ambassador Thex-9 had promised would be a historic presentation about the dangers of uncontrolled species development. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, watching the enormous station grow larger on their improvised screens. In a few hours, Thex-9 would present humanity's stolen technology to the Council and recommend that Earth be destroyed as a threat to galactic stability. Captain, we're receiving automated messages telling us to identify ourselves, Kate Sullivan reported from her navigation station. Standard protocol requires all approaching vessels to transmit their species designation and purpose. What should I tell them? Jake asked with a slight smile. Dr. Carter looked up from his science station, where he was monitoring communications from the Council station. Sir, Thex-9 has already begun his presentation. He's showing the Council representatives the technology we discovered and explaining how dangerous it would be in human hands. Ryan Blake had been preparing their weapons systems, such as they were. Captain, I count 53 military vessels providing security. We might be able to surprise a few of them, but once they know we're here, we'll be completely outgunned. That's fine, Ryan. We're not here to win a space battle. We're here to win something much more important. Lisa Park called from engineering. Sir, all systems are stable. The alien power cells are fully charged and our improvised engines are running better than ever. Whatever we're going to do, we're ready for it. Jake took a deep breath and made his decision.
Kate, take us in on the fastest approach course.
Drop cloak when we're close enough for everyone to see us clearly. Yes, sir. Beginning final approach now. The Phoenix Rising accelerated toward the massive station, its hybrid engines leaving a visible trail that no other ship in the galaxy could duplicate. The security vessels began to move to intercept them. But Jake's ship was already too close to stop. Captain, they're demanding we halt immediately or be destroyed, Kate reported. Open a communication channel to the entire Council station. Full broadcast, every ship, every species representative. Channel open, sir. Jake stepped forward, knowing that his next words would be heard by representatives of dozens of civilizations. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Phoenix Rising. We are the crew that Ambassador Thex-9 reported as dead. We have come to tell you what really happened to us, and to warn you about what the Zephyrians are planning for your own species. On the Council station, chaos erupted. The meeting hall where Thex-9 had been, presenting suddenly filled with confused voices as species. Representatives demanded to know how dead humans were speaking to them. Dr. Carter was monitoring the internal communications of the station. Captain Thex-9 is claiming we're imposters, that this is some kind of trick, but the other representatives are demanding proof. Then let's give them proof. Alex, transmit everything we discovered about the ruins, including evidence of all the other species that were abandoned there. As the data flowed to the Council station, Jake continued his broadcast. For centuries, the established galactic powers have maintained control by eliminating any species that might challenge them. They identify promising civilizations, guide their development, steal their discoveries, and then destroy them before they can become competitors. Ryan was watching the tactical display as Zephyrian security ships moved closer. Sir, they're charging weapons. Orders, let them come. Kate, take us right to the station's main docking bay. Full speed. The Phoenix Rising dove toward the massive station while 53 warships pursued it. To everyone watching, it looked like a suicide attack. But Jake had no intention of ramming the station. Now, Kate, emergency stop. The Phoenix Rising used its hybrid braking systems to halt just meters from the station's hull. The pursuing warships, not expecting such a maneuver, shot past them and had to turn around to re-engage. Ryan activated a device that Dr. Carter had built using alien technology from the ruins. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. Instead, it broadcast a signal that interfered with the command systems of ships within a certain range. Suddenly, half the pursuing vessels found their weapons and engines shutting down randomly. Their crews could regain control, but it took time and effort, time that Jake intended to use. Broadcasting again. "Captain," Kate reported. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Jake continued, his voice now reaching confused and frightened aliens throughout the station. "We are proof that species can survive your abandonment. We rebuilt our ship from garbage and spare parts. We turned your own technology against you, and we are not the only ones fighting back." Dr. Carter was receiving reports from across the galaxy. "Captain, our signal is being picked up by the underground networks. Species that have been oppressed by the galactic powers are beginning to revolt on at least 12 worlds. On the Council station, Ambassador Thex 9 was desperately trying to regain control of the situation. These humans are lying. They are exactly the kind of dangerous, unpredictable species that must be eliminated for galactic stability." But his words were having the opposite effect from what he intended. Many of the species' representatives were beginning to realize that they too had been controlled and manipulated by the galactic powers. "Sir," Kate said, "I'm receiving communication requests from several ships in the area. Not security vessels. Civilian ships carrying species representatives who want to talk to us directly." "Put them through." A dozen different alien voices came through the communication system at once, all asking variations of the same questions. How had humanity survived? How had they built their ship? Could they help other species do the same thing? Jake smiled as he realized that they had accomplished something much more important than revenge. They had started a revolution. "Alex, are you recording all of this?" "Every word, Captain. The galaxy is going to remember this day." Ryan looked up from his tactical display. "Sir, the security ships are regrouping. They're going to try to destroy us before we can say anything else. Then we better make our last words count." "Kate, open the channel one more time." As Zephyrian weapons powered up and dozens of species representatives listened, Jake delivered his final message to the galaxy. "We came here as explorers, hoping to earn our place among the stars. You tried to use us and then dispose of us like garbage. But humanity has a saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. You left us to die in the void, and we said not today. We will never stop fighting for our right to exist. And we will help any species that wants to break free from your control." The first energy beams began firing toward the Phoenix Rising, but Jake wasn't finished. "You were afraid of what we might become if we were allowed to develop freely. You were right to be afraid, but not because we wanted to conquer the galaxy, because we wanted to free it." The Phoenix Rising began to move again, dodging between the massive support pillars of the station as weapons fire chased it. But the damage was already done. Jake's words were being broadcast and rebroadcast across hundreds of worlds by species that had finally found the courage to speak out. Lisa's voice came from engineering. "Captain, we took some hits, but all major systems are still working." "Where do we go now?" Jake looked at his crew, these extraordinary people who had refused to give up even when the galaxy itself had abandoned them. They had started as explorers seeking humanity's place among the stars. Now they had become something much more important, symbols of freedom and resistance. "We go wherever we're needed. Lisa, there are a lot of oppressed species out there who could use our help learning to fight back." As the Phoenix Rising jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the chaos of the Galactic Council behind, Jake knew that they had changed the galaxy forever. The age of unquestioned control by the established powers was ending. Humanity had been left to die in the void, and they had said, "Not today." Now they were helping others learn to say the same thing. The revolution had begun, and there was no stopping it now. In the depths of space, the Phoenix Rising flew on toward its next mission, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of dozens of species that had learned from humanity's example. They had discovered that with enough determination, creativity, and refusal to accept defeat, even the impossible could be overcome. The galaxy would never be the same.